All right, and we're back with Dr. Bala, but just a quick reminder, the views expressed on RGV Community Health Hour are for informational purposes only and do not constitute medical advice. Be sure to consult your primary care provider for all your healthcare needs. So, welcome back, Dr. Bala. Just to let our audience know, you were the last guest of for my show last semester.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we pre-recorded the episode and things didn't work out whenever it was time to come to upload. So I decided to have him back on as my first guest for this semester because I really enjoyed our conversation last time. It was maybe like 6 to 8 weeks ago at this point, but it was a great conversation, and I'm happy we could have it again. So
Yeah.
Thank you for coming back on.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here again. Fortunately, you couldn't upload it. It's okay. I think.
Yeah, of course. And as I said, it's a good excuse to get you back on early, right? But yeah, so I think I'd like to start the conversation the way we did before. Of course, just talking a little bit about your background, educational background, and a little bit of your journey to UTRGV. I think the audience would find that interesting.
Yeah, like we discussed before. So educationally, if you look at my background, I started everything back in Nigeria, in my hometown called Gombe.
Gombe, right?
Gombe State, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's a state in the northeastern part of Nigeria. So I did my primary and secondary education, what you call here elementary and high school.
Mm-hmm.
So after graduating, I have this high test for Ivy League universities in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but we have only one Ivy League in my region, that's the Northeast. But I want to go elsewhere. I want to go far from home to
Mm-hmm.
study. So yeah. So I took we have this pre-university exams that everyone must take before getting accepted into the university in Nigeria, which is called University Matriculation Examination, so formerly called JAM. So I took that. I took the test, and then I was accepted for a program that I didn't want.
That you didn't want.
Yeah. So the way the Nigerian system works, universities, public universities, are free.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, are free, so to say, because you don't pay tuition. You only pay some fees that are small. So there is competition getting into this university because everything is free. So if you have like a good school and you apply for, say, you want to study mass communication, for instance, and if the position for mass communication are filled up, the university will just decide to offer you to study another program, and that was what happened. Then I went to another 1-year training that we call remedial studies, so kind of to prepare you to enter university. So after that remedial study, I was able to be accepted into pharmacy program, and I was happy. So I did my pharmacy degree, which is a bachelor's degree in Nigeria, a 5-year bachelor's degree, and then after graduating, I did that at Ahmadu Bello University, which is like last ranking is the second best university in Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that is 2024 ranking. So it has always been either the first, second, or third within that race. So it's a top university and there's top competition. So I was glad, I was happy, and I studied pharmacy there. So after graduating from pharmacy school, there was the dilemma, as in the confusion on
a dilemma.
where to go. Yeah. As a pharmacist, there are a lot of pathways. You can go to industries, you can work in the hospital, you can go into research, and then, but I have this interest in the industry. That was what even motivated me to to study pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
So after graduating, there is a mandatory internship in a clinical setting. So all Nigerian pharmacists will have to do that internship, and I think it's the same in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the United States run the PharmD program, we run the bachelor's program.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that internship in the hospital, and before I graduated, I started applying to industries.
Nice.
Yeah, so I applied to GlaxoSmithKline, so
That's
I'm
right.
trying to
GSK.
link my
Yeah.
undergraduate education to my postgraduate education.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a gap where I work for GlaxoSmithKline, a pharmaceutical company, I think a British pharmaceutical company. In Nigeria, I worked for 5 years
Mm-hmm.
as a medical representative.
Yeah, I remember talking a little bit about this last time. It was
Yeah.
really interesting insight, into your background, because, when I met you, when this, actually I'll stay quiet until we come across that part of our story. But yeah, it was really interesting to hear your experience in industry, because I've only known you as a researcher.
As a researcher.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Till today, a lot of people that we haven't met for a long time, they're surprised that I'm now a researcher, because I was doing well in the industry. I was what we call a medical representative. So we go into hospital and do presentations on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Because GlaxoSmithKline is an innovative company. What that means, they produce drugs, not just manufacture.
Mm-hmm.
So they do research, R&D, and come up with a new novel molecule, and then they get patents, they pass through the processes, regulations, and then they sell it. So you need to introduce that to healthcare workers in the hospital.
Wow.
Talking about doctors, pharmacists, nurses. So that was my job, and most of the time I spent time in the hospital, either in the pharmacy department, in different medical department in the hospital. And then there is this pharmacology program, a master's program. And then I said, I spend most of my time here, why not join this program? And that was how I joined. I started master's in pharmacology, and then that was where research came in. I was exposed to how to think about problem, how to plan on solving that problem, and how to come up with result analysis. All the articles I was presenting when I was in GSK, I'm now in a place that you can actually work and produce your own article. This is your own research. So I finished masters, and then that was a PhD program, the same place and the same work. Then, but the PhD, you have to take a break, especially during the first 2 years. So that was when I moved completely from the industry into research.
Okay.
So during that, my PhD program, that was when we met at so I had an opportunity to come and do research because I was working on snake venom.
Yeah, and that's what kind of surprised me with our last conversation, was because you mentioned you had started working with snake venom, and then you just, actually you tell the story. So you just looked it up on the internet, like snake venom research opportunities, and go ahead. How did you find the NNTRC is what I wanted.
Yeah. So it is an interesting story, even to me, a motivating one, in fact. Most people in my peers or in my class, they wouldn't go to snake research. There is this phobia of snakes. People, when they hear snakes, they get scared not to talk of doing research.
Yeah.
So, but I have a history with snakes because I'm from Gombe State. Gombe State, I have some local government, some local government that are known for snakes. The snakes incidents are higher compared to other places globally.
Yeah.
Not just in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And then we have the highest snake bite incident in Nigeria.
Yeah, I've learned a little bit about this through working with Dr. Galan.
Yeah. So, in fact, the high school I went to, in fact, sometimes if we go out, it's mandatory that you come to the school with what we call a torchlight. I don't know what you call it here, a flashlight.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of beak that you can be able to see. what
Like a
is in
floodlight, like stronger than a normal flashlight, or?
A flashlight that you can be able to see your front before you step. Yeah.
Okay.
The kind of light the police use. So you must come with it to that school, right? Because up there in that town there is a history of snake bite incident. In fact, the logo of the town is called Billiri. Is a mountain with a with a snake hood on it, like this.
Wow.
Yeah. So
so it's
that's the logo.
Yeah. So it's been a big part of the culture and community there for as long as people can remember, I'm sure.
So Billiri Kautingo. So Kautingo is known for snakes, and then there is another local government called Shango. So I spent 6 years around there, even though I'm originally from Gombe town, the main capital city of that state. But I stayed there as a kid for my high school. It's a boarding high school.
Okay.
However, even the people in Gombe are not spared from snakes, because I remember my sister was bitten by snakes. My uncle was bitten by a snake. My sister at home, my uncle in the farm when he was farming. So those I can remember. So when I saw a group of researchers in the hospital I was talking about, where we are having the pharmacology program, they are well grounded in snake venom research, and I say, oh, this is big now. Research is about solving problems, right? And these guys have gone far globally in terms of snake venom research. They are called the ENSRI, Nigerian Snake Venom Research and Intervention Center.
Wow.
So I just walked to the professor I have interest in to say, you can do your PhD thesis in this. That was
Nice.
how everything started.
Yeah, it sounds really amazing.
Yeah. And then
So then you just started looking up programs from there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I had this opportunity. I applied for sponsorship because education, university education is sort of free of tuition for Nigerians in Nigeria. But if you don't have funding for PhD, you have to fund your research.
Okay.
Yeah, so students keep applying for funding so that they can be able to support their research. So I applied for some funding to travel outside of Nigeria and conduct research, and I was lucky I got it.
Nice.
Yeah, so I started looking, where should I go? I have this money to travel to do research for up to a year. Search on it, and then boom, here comes the NNTRC.
Yeah, so go ahead. The NNTRC, it stands for the National Naturotoxin Research Center, and it's in Texas A&M University, Kingsville.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing research facility that does a whole bunch of work with snake venom and sends it all over the world for research purposes. And a really remarkable place.
A huge center. I mean, that was the beginning of my exposure to proteomics and metabolomics, which is sort of what brought me here.
Yeah, so studying proteins and metabolites is what's known as metabolomics or proteomics and metabolomics.
Yeah.
So just for our non-science audience listeners, but just to take a quick radio break, we're going to play a song and come back to continue this talk with Dr. Bala. So stay tuned. All right, everyone, and we're back. Thanks for staying tuned in. So, Dr. Bala, you discovered the NNTRC, and since you had your own funding, was it pretty easy to just show up and hop in with your own work and do what you?
Yeah, that makes things easy for me. So I searched and I saw NNTRC. So this is the right place. Actually, and then I saw another place in Singapore.
Oh wow!
Yeah, at the National University of Singapore. There is a top researcher that's working on venom. He has years of experience as well. He was at one time the president of the International Society on Toxinology. So toxinology is the study of animal venoms generally. So which snake venom?
Toxinology?
Toxinology, not toxicology.
Yeah, toxinology. Wow.
Yes, yeah. So toxicology
Has to
is,
do with like biological systems response to a venom, right?
Yeah. yeah. So
Or a toxin, not necessarily a venom, but
yeah. So toxinology is basically any animal venom. So and I saw that the director at the center at the time is Dr. Elder Sanchez. She's a professor of chemistry, and I think she's still the director. So I had a colleague that was based in College Station.
oh wow.
Yeah, texting the name, and I asked him, yeah, I saw a center, can you help me check it out? And then he traveled all the way from College Station to
Wow.
Kingsville, which is like 2 hours away from here, right?
Maybe even a little more, yeah, like maybe pushing 3 hours from,
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
College Station to Kingsville.
So he from College Station to Kingsville, and then they were happy to receive him, and they tell him, yeah, he can apply
Oh, so while you were still,
in Nigeria.
yeah, so he went and scoped it out for you.
Yeah,
Wow,
to check it out.
nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I applied. They accepted me because I already had funding. So we passed through the visa process, immigration processes.
Mhm.
I was able to go there and do research, and that was when I met a lot of great people. That was I met you. I met Dr. Jacob Gowan. I met Elder Sanchez. I met Dr. Moy, Dr. Salazar. These are people that are well grounded in venomics. So here is the link between my research and what brought me to UTRG. Right? So I study venoms. So in venoms, venom contain mostly proteins, especially snake venom. Then the study of proteins is called proteomics. There are different platforms to study proteins. We're talking about mass spectrometry and even the basic biomedical techniques such as Western blotting, ELISA, just to look at the components of venom and proteins generally.
Mm-hmm.
So we employ a lot of platforms to study a venom, right? And then I did my work, part of my PhD, where we look at the composition of the snake venoms in Nigeria. So I came from Nigeria with 5 snakes venom.
Wow.
In a sample, and I passed through the airport with it. So we analyze these venoms, we look at what are the contents, and that way we can be able to know which part of the venom is causing what part of the pathology when you get bitten by a snake. For instance, when you get bitten by a snake, there are it's like a cocktail of things that are injected into the body, and all of them, they have their different biological functions. For instance, there are toxins that will modify the way your blood clots.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way that it won't allow it to clot, so you start bleeding from every part of your body. And there are those that block some receptors on your heart, and your heart muscles cannot be able to relax and contract.
Mm-hmm.
That way your heart muscles get paralyzed and you cannot be able to breathe. And these are so many ways. So we analyze what is in those venoms and which snakes causes what kind of pathology after inflammation, and which is good information for us in Nigeria. And I went back home and I was able to work on the thesis, the results, and coupled with the results I already got in our Nigerian lab, and then I was able to defend it as my PhD thesis.
That's awesome.
And I passed.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that year you spent at the NNTRC was really critical to, obviously you could have done still snake venom research, but to have that experience of extra, I don't know if it was an extra year, but that year of, unique opportunity at the NNTRC to continue maybe doing things in a different manner, using different instrumentation,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And so when I met you there, and I was just visiting the NNTRC, I don't remember for what, it was such a long time ago at this point.
Yeah.
And every time I would swing by, or whenever I would come visit Texas, because I was always living up in the Seattle area,
Mm-hmm.
I'd come down and try to swing by the campus to say hi to the other people I know, Dr. Hahn, and of course Dr. Galan when he went back down there from Massachusetts General Hospital.
Yeah.
And so and then I met you there, and then as he introduced me to you, and like I told you in our last show, I was kind of surprised to learn this because I thought you were already already had your PhD.
I thought that.
Yeah, so whenever I met you, I thought you already had your PhD, and so it was kind of a funny insight to realize, like, oh man, like you were still working on it back
I
then.
was still a student.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I had some experience. Like in Nigeria, I was able to work with snakes physically. I had the opportunity to hold the snakes and milk the venom.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's cool. Good training.
Yeah. Usually we have technicians
Mhm.
that are well trained on that.
Yeah.
But then as a PhD student, I was so curious. We can't finish this program without touching the snake, and
Mhm.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had that kind of experience, and I joined a clinical team that were doing a clinical trial with Nigeria on trying to repurpose that trial is still on. So I'm not going to talk about more information, but we're trying to repurpose some medication to see if they can help in the management of snake bite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then while at the NNTRC, I made top experienced scientists talking about Dr. Sanchez, Dr. Galan, Dr. Santraba, and then these are people that have experience that have been around, like you said.
Yes, like world experts.
You said, I Montreal in Canada. So I got those experience, and I was happy I got it. So, and I was in Nigeria, a fresh PhD graduate, back in the industry for a couple of months, and then because I interacted with the people there, and then I got this mail because I've been talking. I kept contact even after I left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
And we made publications,
Mm-hmm.
so we are like scientifically connected. So I got a mail from Jacob that I have this position if I want to apply. It's for to manage proteomics and metabolomics, generally multi-omics.
Yeah.
So when I say multi-omics, I mean is the lab that does genetics, genomics, transcriptomics, metabolomics, proteomics. So these are all omics terminologies.
And so with that, we're going to take another quick break,
Okay.
and whenever we come back to, we'll talk more about the work that we do here at the Human Genetics Department, which
Cool.
was what he was leading into, everyone. So stay tuned. Thanks.
I'll try to break it down for our non-science listeners. You know, in biology, when you talk about everything starts from the DNA, right, which contains the code with the informations, and then send the information to RNA, and then this information is translated, and then to produce proteins, right, and then the proteins do the functions like everything we do. This is how life is. So when you do you look at the genetics or genomics, you're looking at the DNA. When you do transcriptomics, you're looking at the transcription. And then when you do proteomics, you are looking at the produced proteins, right?
Basically, basically the final product, right?
Yeah, the final product
to go
that perform the
to
function.
move throughout our body and do their essential, whether it's an
Exactly,
enzyme
proteins
to do
a
everything.
variety of things
Yeah.
in the body. And that is why when you have a misfunction, or when you have an issue with the code, the wrong protein may be produced, right? And then you may which may be the basis for other disease. Or maybe you have an issue with the DNA sequencing, and then a certain protein will be produced instead of another, and then that the protein will not be performing function. So we're looking at the genetic basis of diseases, but and we have different principal investigators that you say that are specialized in different parts. Some investigations are looking at the GYE, that is genetic and the environment interaction, how the environment affects your genetics to cause either mutation that can lead to other diseases, and we're trying to look at their relationship. We have statistical geneticists that do a lot of wonderful analysis, bioinformatics, and
Sorry about that. I was putting on the next song
Yeah.
and it played.
That was a nice sound though.
Well, we'll be listening to that soon enough, but I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then we, the lab I'm working with the Dr. Jacob Gallen that does proteomics and metabolomics, like you say. We look at the proteins in samples from cells, from plasma, from serums, from tissues, and even from cell cultures. So, and we also look at the metabolites. So what we basically do, we have a lot of samples in the banks that have been there for many years. So this group has been strong, and they have been doing a lot for so many years, especially in the field of obesity and diabetes. And recently in neurodegenerative disorders, talking about, and also neuropsychiatric disorders. We're talking about Alzheimer's, we're talking about major depressive disorders.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even just our department, you know, we collaborate with other departments that are, you know, specialized in that as well. And yeah, there's a lot of departments at UTRGV doing all kinds of great cancer and neuroscience and all this related health, you know.
Exactly, like the cancer center in the UTRGV recently, because when we talk about liver disease, talking about NAFO, that is non-alcoholic liver disease, talking about diabetes. We also talk about NASH, that is when it progresses from non-alcoholic liver disease. Even talk about hepatocellular carcinoma, that's when it reaches the stage where it becomes a cancer. So that way you have a relationship with other departments. So we work with a lot of other departments and centers within the university and outside the university, because we have this instrumental capacity. I mean, an impressive instrumental capacity.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I emphasize of that because it's really impressive. We have like state-of-the-art instruments to perform this analysis that we're talking about, to perform this proteomics. So basically we do a lot of mass spectrometry based proteomics or metabolomics. So we get these samples, say from patients with NAFO, or from patients with diabetes, or from patients with Alzheimer's. We look at the contents, the proteins content in that samples, or maybe the metabolite content. So metabolites are the kind of the end product of metabolism, so certain chemicals, toxins you inhale, drugs you have taken. So if the metabolites, what are they doing? We look at them, what are they causing in the system, trying to get a relationship. So one of the most important things we do in the department is biomarker discovery. So biomarker discovery is huge in generally in science and even in clinical practice, because when we say biomarker, we're talking about something that will indicate a disease is present.
Yeah, right? Disease state.
Yeah. Or symptoms that will indicate that a certain disease is at a certain stage, right? So this is important for your doctors. This is important for your healthcare providers, because if you can be able to get a certain protein, now we can say, yes, if you see this protein at certain amount, or high, a certain amount low, then it's indicating the presence of, say, diabetes for it. So this will be a huge discovery. So the next time if this is validated as established, and then the next time your doctor can be able to say, no, go do this lab test for me. The lab people should try to find this protein. If they see the protein and they see the level is high, then the doctor say you have so.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to break it down.
Oh yeah, you're doing a great job.
Research can be translational, right? From the lab what we're doing to the clinic and to take care of people.
Yeah, I know. That's
so
really
because
remarkable.
this is important, because if a disease is detected early enough, that means your healthcare providers can initiate medication and take care of it, right? And or maybe if a disease is detected that it's at this stage, then more preparation to take care of it. So this is important information, and that's why if you go to doctors sometimes you say, oh, I think you have this, but I want to send you to the lab to do some tests to do confirmation, mostly looking for biomarkers, and that's what we do, trying to get metabolites, proteins that can serve as biomarkers.
Yeah.
And recently we're doing something cool. We're looking at beyond the cells, like cells are the smallest unit of life, right? The smallest unit that can live independently.
Yeah.
A cell can live independently. However, those cells secrete some things called extracellular vesicles.
They're waste products, essentially.
Yeah, kind of.
Not always waste products, but they are, messengers, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they use these things to communicate between themselves, and even in disease stage, even in healthy stage, healthy communication, and even pathologic communication. So we want to go beyond the cells, beyond just looking at proteins or metabolite in the cells. We want to look at proteins and metabolites in these extracellular vesicles. And that way, for instance, if I get sometimes to look at you, Marco, I may look at you and say, or look at you, Ricardo, I may look at you and say, Ricardo, you look like this, you have these features. But if you send a message using a paper mail, if I get that message and open what is inside, I may have more information regarding what you have in your mind than by just looking at you. You get the logic?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are messengers, like you said. So instead of just looking at Ricardo and then trying to deduce a meaning from your stage, or maybe, but you send a message which is from your mind, right? And then if I open that message, I can be able to have more precise information of what is going on than just by just looking at you.
Yeah,
and that is something we started doing recently. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go and hit this radio break. So stay tuned, everyone, for our last part of our show segment. Thanks. All right, and we're back for the last part of our show, last segment. So Dr. Bala, we've got about 5 minutes left. If there's anything you want to continue, talking about, or any messages for the listeners.
Yeah, like I was talking on what we're doing here. We like I said, we're doing great things, and we're trying to go deep molecular, so that we see deep downstream what is going on, and trying to identify things that can be able to help the people around here, like NAFL, obesity, diabetes. This is highly endemic in the Rift Valley.
Yeah.
And this scientists we're focusing and trying to even get link with neurological disorders, talking about Alzheimer's, and recently trying to do some system toxicology to be able to detect whether the environmental toxins have impact on these diseases that are highly endemic in the region. And we can do all these things with these instruments that I was talking about. So that I would like to conclude by telling our listeners, especially students, that there is a huge opportunity right next door to them, I mean, right close to them. So this Center of Human Genetics is open for all students to come and learn statistical genetics, proteomics, metabolomics. Right now we have undergraduate students in our laboratory that are coming to learn things that we're doing to prepare them to become excellent researchers. And even graduate students, there's opportunity for them. What you need to do is to look at our different principal investigators and contact them, and then they will be open for you to come into the lab. We have the people of Dr. Jacob Gallan, we have people of Dr. Joan Kwan, we have John Banjero, our chair, Dr. Sarah Banjero. And then we have a lot of them that you can learn a lot. And I'm talking about these are like superstars in their field, and they have achieved a lot, and they're still on a lot of new state-of-the-art instruments. And I would like, before I conclude, I would like to mention our new building as the new building here on the Brownsville campus. It's called the Center for Human Genetics. So even myself, if I go in there this morning, I will just be looking at it and loving it more because it's so beautiful. I mean, it's the aesthetic and then the instruments. So everything is there, and students are welcome to come and learn from us. And lastly, the PhD program is open for people to apply to be able to graduate as graduates with a PhD in human genetics.
Yeah, and the application is a rolling application, I believe now, so you can apply at any time.
Yeah.
So, 1 second. So, with that, everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is the end of the show.
Yeah.
But next week, be sure to tune in, and hopefully we have another great guest on. And thank you, Dr. Bala, for your time today. I appreciate it, and for coming on again.
Thank you, Kadu.
And as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay curious, and let's thrive together, RGV.